Welcome back to The Line. Crime has been an important priority for Governor Susana Martinez over 2 terms in office. In her State of the State address this week, the governor once again referenced her background as a prosecutor and called on lawmakers to pass legislation to address high crime rates in communities across the state.
To the police officers, I know you are tired of arresting the same people over and over for serious crimes, frustrated that you put your life on the line to put handcuffs on criminals' wrists, only to see them walk free. And you worry that your next interaction with that person could result in tragedy. To every crime victim in New Mexico, I hear you too. Year after year, I've heard you and others in this building, they also hear you. You're tired of seeing those who hurt your loved ones or broke into your home walk out of court with a swagger and a smile back into your own neighborhoods. I learned a long time ago as a prosecutor, and it's just plain common sense, that those who commit crimes will go where the laws are weak and punishments are light. And in New Mexico, they have found their easy mark. In Albuquerque, for example, police have identified 189 dangerous people. They were offenders who account for over 1,000 felony arrests just the past 3 years. Now, how is that possible? Certain justice system officials have been so intent on emptying jails, shuffling cases along, and dismantling the bail system, that they've forgotten their primary job is to keep New Mexicans safe.
Sophia, it has to be said that in her time, crime the numbers have not looked good. And she's been, putting this kind of thing out there for a long time.
That's right.
It's a results-oriented world, as they say. Has she made a point on crime? What's happening here?
She's, I think, in this speech, tried to position herself as like, look, I was right. Yeah. But what we haven't seen is a positive change, really, in terms of crime figures. Not a meaningful one. We've seen some good things, some bad things. I think, the governor might like to be compared to Ronald Reagan, but I think ultimately her legacy is going to be similar to Reagan's in terms of behavioral and mental health. Under Ronald Reagan, there was a tremendous push to move people with mental health issues out of substantive treatment and just onto drugs. With the shuttering of the behavioral health programs here in New Mexico, I believe we're going to come away from this and discover that had a serious negative impact. I'm not saying that people with mental health issues are necessarily criminals, but what we saw post-Reagan and what I believe part of what we're seeing now is that when you don't address issues up front, and this governor has focused on punishment, on 3 strikes, on on the things, death penalty, on the things that research tell us don't actually improve crime statistics, don't move the needle. The person who's committing a crime is concerned about, am I going to be arrested today, right now? In Albuquerque, the odds are pretty good you're not going to be arrested today, right now, because we don't have enough police.
Good point.
And what we have instead is a true crisis in terms of behavioral health in this state. And a true crisis in terms of addressing the preconditions to crime.
Dan, she mentioned, and you touched on this in our follow-up on Tuesday, that certain justice system officials have been so intent on emptying jails, shuffling cases along, and dismantling the bail system, laying it at the feet of that end of the world. Is that a fair assessment of where crime lays now? Is that the problem, or is that she's just making it the problem at this point?
Well, I don't think it's, so I think that's kind of a loaded question, right?
A little bit.
I think it's, you got to talk about the root causes. I think Sophie makes a very valid point. I mean, you look in New Mexico, especially when you come up to Albuquerque, the mental health issue is an unbelievable problem. I mean, if you're in the hinterlands of New Mexico and have a problem, you get shipped to Albuquerque.
That's right.
So I do think that, there's been a missed opportunity by the governor to say, listen, as a prosecutor, I think there's another avenue that we should be looking at. I do believe that, we have really become a place in New Mexico, as, I talked about Tuesday, and I'm sure we'll talk about as time goes on. We really are trying to blame all the politicians for a lot of actions of judges as well. I think judges are not holding up their end of the bargain. I think when people are, being led on their own recognizance, and they're rapists and they've done hard crimes, multiple crimes, and I think that she's made a consistent point of saying that. But it doesn't surprise me, because Republican governors have always been at odds with the judiciary in New Mexico. Gary Johnson, I think, spent more time in the courthouse than he did the roundhouse while he was governor. And so whether he was being sued by the legislature or what, I think she's doing a disservice by spending as much time on crime, because I do think history is going to remember that she was a prosecutor. Whether she did a good job on fighting crime or not, I think history is going to say she did a good job trying to fight crime, because that's her whole background. She talked about it. I think that she did bring up some good things. I'm not a fan of the 3 strikes you're out, the mandatory sentencing stuff. Clearly, the death penalty is going to get zero opportunity to be heard when Democrats are in charge of both sides of the House. But it's going to be interesting to see what manifests from the speech. If she comes in with a very specific piece of legislation that says, okay, we don't have the death penalty in New Mexico, but if you kill a cop, a correction officer, or a child, you get the death penalty. I think there may be some legs on that. But you have to be careful during a 30-day, because once you introduce it, how you amend it, becomes.
Thank you. That's a good point. Now, Ms. Martinez also focused on law enforcement and crime throughout her 2 terms in office, but this year she brought up a police officer who survived a shooting in her speech. Let's watch that part now. And that is
During an August traffic stop, Officer Simpson encountered William Wilson, a criminal who had been in and out of prison 16 times for various offenses: aggravated burglary, committing a crime with a firearm, resisting arrest, parole violations, and drug charges. Most recently, he was charged with 17 felonies, including aggravated burglary and firearm possession. And a judge let him bond out with very little accountability. This criminal shot Officer Simpson. This badge stopped the bullet. And this New Mexico police officer is a hero who nearly lost his life protecting everyone. I want to thank you, Officer Simpson. An officer's badge, the shield, is a symbol of his commitment and willingness to lay down his life for us. It is not just a piece of metal. To every officer, it represents their bond with their people that they serve.
Merritt, we can all be, that Officer Simpson survived is obviously the first thing that has to be said. That, we're all grateful for that. It was an interesting bit of show business, though. I mean, these folks go out there and put their lives on the line for us. But she made an interesting case that the perpetrator, 17 felonies, I mean, that's how does someone get on the street? There's a reasonable question any citizen can ask themselves, can't they?
Well, yes, and of course, I mean, how could she not use that example? I mean, really miraculous and fantastic for the officer and his family. What concerns me, first of all, the bail issue, I was against. I thought it was, even though it passed hugely, I hate voter initiatives, I thought it was stupid. We know we don't have enough prosecutors. We know we don't have enough police. That's right. We also, I
have to say public defenders as well.
Right. This is true. Yes, so we don't have the resources to administer our legal system, our justice system. So to me, that's a much bigger problem than what the laws are and how tough the laws are. We don't have the ability or the resources to competently enforce them, and I think that's a.
Was that an opportunity miss that perhaps she could have said in the sense of reform, these things need to be addressed?
Well, it kind of surprised me because to me, if you've run a DA's office, you know what you need to run it. Right. And I think it's pretty clear that the district attorney in Albuquerque does not have the resources, and it's been under-resourced for years.
That's right.
So I thought that was strange. And in other districts, Silver City has 3 judges. that seems like a lot.
It does, yeah.
I mean, and well, the judges in Silver City are great. I'm glad they're all doing it, but it'd be great if one of them would move up to Albuquerque
A
where
little
we
bit of
need some more
there.
help.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. Pick up on that if you would. You know, again, what Merritt's saying, it's part of an ecosystem.
Exactly.
If one piece of it's not working, all the rest of it suffers.
Yeah, and it really ties into the points that were made earlier about behavioral health, about budgets for prosecutors and public defenders and the whole court system. And I think the speech really was a missed opportunity. Again, 30-day session, election year, so these big sorts of initiatives, the death penalty is not going to happen. Things related to the bail system, which was approved by more than 80% of voters, that's not going to happen either. But there was, I think, a real opportunity to say, within the limits of what we've got, and we do have new money this year, we've got $330 million in counting. Here are some things that we can do to actually make the justice system work better. Because the reality is these other sorts of things that were really set up in a more oppositional sort of way, the I'm right and you're wrong kind of approach, that's just not going to happen.
Good point there. We have to pick up, certainly on the public defender side of things, she has been at odds with that end of the legal world since day one, under-resourced. You know, it's just been a difficulty.
The entire system is starved. I mean, it includes, frankly, civil legal services as well. That it's not just on the criminal side.
Right.
I agree with Harry. This is a real opportunity. We have some money. Yes, the entire state is starved, but this is front and center right now. So, what is going to happen with this? It's a big question.
Dan, any last thoughts on the crime issue? Has she made that final point to you that something needs to change, but she left off what that change needs to be?
I was just amazed that she didn't talk about, you know, she's publicly supported the new DA of Albuquerque and publicly talked about getting him some money.
Right.
And I thought that would have made its way into the speech.
I
What
would
an
agree.
opportunity to say, you know, hey, listen, I'm reaching out. Not only am I reaching out, I'm reaching out to a person of another party in a city that hasn't been very kind to me. And I see that. But I do see this as a lost opportunity. I mean, whether it's the public defender's office, the police, she is putting money into the police this year. You know, and I'm just not sure if it's too little too late. But you know, the other problem too is that she's putting money into the state police, and I'm not sure state police is where, which they do a great job. I think the problem is the beat cops in the cities and the towns and the sheriffs. That seems to be where some of the money needs to be.
Exactly right. We'll have to end that there. Now, when we come back to the line, we'll talk about other issues that made headlines this week.